Good afternoon. Today is October 23rd, and this is an update from Epika Worlds. We're going to call this update Geography of Epika. We wanted to break out from production update a bit of a geography as to what we're building. So here you will see kind of a Google Maps and some other resources to explain to you what we're building in Epika. So to start, let's switch over to Google Maps, and obviously you can do this all yourself at home as well. What you see here is a map of Middle East, Nile Delta, Cairo. We're going to look at Israel specifically. So here is Jerusalem, kind of in the middle, Tel Aviv, but we're actually going to focus on the north, and this is Sea of Galilee, and specifically a city of Capernaum. This is where Jesus preached for 3 years. There's a lot of stories that happen kind of around this area in the north of Sea of Galilee, and that is what we're focusing to start building in Epika. We're going to move on to Jerusalem next, and we'll have probably a separate update about our plans of what we're going to build in Jerusalem. So let's keep zooming in, and you will see, switch over to satellite view so you can see it better. Capernaum, here it is, Capernaum. Turn on the satellite layer, and this is the ancient city of Capernaum. This is the preserved area if you look around this, but as you can see there are still ruins outside the area, but this is the preserved area. You kind of park right here. Franciscans built an administration building over here. You walk in, it's kind of paved area. This is the ancient synagogue, and this part right here I'm showing is the 1st century synagogue, and it was expanded in 3rd century. So in Epika we're actually going to focus on the synagogues that existed in the 1st century. Right here is Peter's house, and actually one of the few locations where we know exactly kind of where it was, but today you kind of see this octagonal structure. It's a Catholic church that was built on top of Peter's house, and I'll show you some zoom-ins of it later. So let's kind of drop into Capernaum and take a look. So that's a nice feature of Google Maps. You can log in and see 360s. This is Sea of Galilee, and this is Capernaum as you saw it on the map. So right here you kind of see the synagogue, 1st century. Again, this was added in 3rd and 4th century. This is the octagonal church on top of Peter's house, administration building, and you can see kind of the waterfront that now just more of a tourist paved area. So this is kind of what Capernaum looked like in 1st century. But again, as you can see, there's some ruins outside the area. Capernaum was larger, but this is kind of a tourist attraction preserved area. So with that, let's actually drop in and take a look at the synagogue. So if we probably drop in around here, you will see these are the remains of the synagogue. When you actually walk in there and walk around, columns kind of in the middle, it was enclosed structure, and some benches over here. We can also look inside Peter's house. So let's drop in right here in the paved area, and you will see this is the remains of Peter's house, and this is the Catholic church that was built on top of it. And they kind of try to preserve it so you can see it's not touching the ruins of Peter's house in the middle. And we can try to drop inside. Let's see if one of these is a good one. That's a wrong one. Let's try over here. Yes. So this is inside the Catholic church, and you can look down in the middle, actually see the remains of Peter's house. So you kind of get an overview of Capernaum, and we actually jump over to the build, and we'll have separate update on our build. But if you look on Epika, we'll go into Bible layout, Mark chapter 4, parable of the sower, and if we drop in here, this is the 3D environment showing, let me turn this down just a tad, showing Sea of Galilee, and this is our recreation of Capernaum as it exists in the 1st century. This is built in Unreal Engine, and you can see what the waterfront would have looked like in the 1st century. And the building right in the middle right here as we're looking at, that is Peter's house. And further, you see the first century synagogue. So you see, kind of, we use historical data. We have some preeminent archaeologists. They're helping us. And this is what the synagogue would have looked like in first century. Kind of gives you an idea. So we're going to jump out and next talk about Sower's Cove. So one of the stories and one of the first kind of chapter verses we're focusing on is a parable of the sower. It talks about, you all know the parable of the sower. It talks about the sower and 4 different types of soil. But what's interesting, when Jesus told that story, he told it as what's called Sower's Cove. So we zoom out a little bit. You see this indentation right here? This is where it's believed Jesus told that story. And it's this kind of, that's why it's called Sower's Cove. And what happened, it's a bit of an amphitheater effect. So Jesus got into a boat right here and got into the middle of that. And you can do this today. You actually see a number of videos on YouTube of people that go there and experience this amphitheater effect in this area where you can speak a normal voice from here, from the water, and you can hear the voice carry pretty much around Sower's Cove. So let's drop in and kind of show you what it looks like today. There's not really kind of a big monument. It's just kind of a curved area, amphitheater effect. So people would have sat here, a couple hundred people. This is, by the way, is Via Maris, where some route would have run right here, people traveled. And Jesus would have been on the boat right here, and then he would go out on the boat in the middle of the cove and be able to speak to a number of people. So we actually have now built Sower's Cove in this production update. We can jump in and I can show you what Sower's Cove would look like. So this is Capernaum. We can jump in and we have some models here. So this is our recreation of Sower's Cove and the boat will go out potentially, and you'll be able to hear as Jesus would have spoken from the boat to people that were kind of sitting around or standing on the shore in this amphitheater effect. So that's kind of geography of what we have built so far and where we're focusing on. But the exciting part for us in geography, once we finish up with Capernaum and Sower's Cove, we intend to move on to Jerusalem, and specifically the Temple Mount. So if we zoom in, and Jerusalem is more recognized than Capernaum, probably as a tourist attraction and biblical history. So we will go to Jerusalem next. And in Jerusalem, we will focus on Temple Mount, which is where a beautiful Jewish temple stood in first century in times of Jesus. So today it's kind of Temple Mount, but you see the outlines. That is where the Jewish temple stood. So actually one of the better views I found, if we jump in here, I can show you. So this is Jerusalem in modern times. And let's see if we can find the right view. We are on top of Mount Olives right here. This is Mount Olives. These are all different cemeteries, Jewish, Christian, Muslim cemetery. And this is Temple Mount, and you can see the wall. This is the wall of the Jewish temple as it existed before it was destroyed by Romans in the first century. This is kind of the western wall. This is where Jews today can pray on the western wall. This is Dome of the Rock, and there's a very famous rock in there, and this is kind of where Jewish temple stood, and Holy of Holies sat inside this very famous rock. Today it has a Dome of the Rock temple on top of it. So that's kind of the preview of what we're doing, and I'm going to record actually a separate video on the Temple Mount and the Jewish temple we're planning to build next. There are some other interesting, obviously, sites also in the area, but we'll cover them in the future videos. So this hopefully you found helpful. This is a presentation of kind of geography of Epika, what we have built already and what we're intending to build in the future. Please subscribe to the channel. We'll post additional videos on this channel. Feel free to forward this to others. We'd love to find folks to collaborate with, information or distributing this and kind of teaching them about our product and what we're building. Thanks so much.